And joining us now live via Zoom is Councilmember Mike Bonin. Mike, good morning to you. Councilman, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So we just saw in Kate Kegle's piece here, there was a clip of you at a press conference for the Palisades fire on Monday, and folks in the crowd are booing you and calling for you to be recalled. You have been one of the most vocal advocates for the city's homeless population, specifically in District 11. How does it make you feel when you're just trying to help? Where's the disconnect?
Well, a couple different things. One, I was surprised that people were drowning out a thank you to our firefighters and my relaying safety information to people who were living in a fire zone. But I'd push back on the idea that I've been the most outspoken champion for people who are homeless. I'd say I've been the most outspoken champion for solutions to homelessness. And it's a false choice out there to say that we're either helping people who are housed or helping people who are unhoused. The solution to everybody's problem, because everybody hates encampments, they're unacceptable, they're unsafe, they're unsanitary. The solution is alternatives. Ideally, it's housing. Until that housing is online, we need alternatives to encampments, like tiny homes, like safe camping, like safe parking. And while, an elected official, a politician is never happy when people are unhappy with him, I'd much rather have people unhappy with me for trying to do something than not trying to do something. It's what I owe my constituents.
And this is such a hot button issue because there isn't a clear solution, and we get it that you're attempting to find one here. But here's what your opponents say, that these encampments or these tiny home areas are going to draw more homeless people to these encampments, and they worry that there's going to be like these exploding tent cities. What do you say to your critics and defend your proposal?
Well, I'd say look around. The city is an exploding tent city. The homelessness is getting exponentially worse. It got worse over the past year, over the pandemic. There's hardly a corner of the city that doesn't have encampments. What we're talking about is providing an alternative to encampments. People keep saying, oh, you're going to make encampments spread. We're not talking about unregulated encampments. We're talking about areas that are emergency interventions, shelter with security and services and sanitation. People have said, I don't want you to do this at Westchester Park. Can't you just do security and services and sanitation instead? And that's exactly what we're proposing. You saw in that clip there with Stephanie, who's just an absolute saint, you saw there that there are tents scattered all around Westchester Park. I'm not saying turn Westchester Park into a campground. What I'm saying is let's designate an area of that park for the people who are there already, get them into housing. While we're doing so, provide security and services. And by doing that, you then restore the bulk of that park to general public use, to recreational programming, to Stephanie's kids and to Matt Stainer's kids.
Mm-hmm. Now, where has this been done and where have you seen this work and be successful?
So, my approach to homelessness has always been ecumenical. You need to do everything in a crisis this big. So, we just opened up a converted motel last week near LAX, another one in a few weeks in Venice. Need to buy more. In the meantime, we need to do things like these emergency interventions. They have started doing these tiny home villages in the San Fernando Valley. My colleague Paul Krikorian has opened some. They have done them in other cities as well around the country. The safe camping model, one of my colleagues just opened one, I believe in the Atwater Village area. They have had them in Seattle, San Francisco, San Diego, and other places around the country. People realize it's a humanitarian crisis. It's not acceptable to have 5 people dying every day on our streets. And it's not acceptable to have encampments everywhere. It's not safe, it's not humane, and we have to be doing the alternative. And the biggest crisis in Los Angeles, the biggest controversy, the thing people are most frustrated about are encampments. It's an absolutely unacceptable status quo. And the only way that status quo is maintained is if we meet proposed solutions with as much anger and frustration as we do the problem. We got to do the solutions. We got to do it.
And in trying to find solutions, which has been very difficult, the critics say the city has absolutely failed on this issue, and now it's exploded, as you say, into this horrific humanitarian crisis, and that these encampments or tiny homes are incremental steps to, Band-Aid the situation. What has to be done systemically? We've got the governor, putting aside more money. We've got the city saying we'll put more money. But isn't it about the root causes of homelessness and not necessarily getting people into houses, Councilman?
It's about all of the above, right? I mean, what's been a problem historically in Los Angeles and regionally is we've always put our eggs in one basket. It's either bridge housing or permanent supportive housing or something like that. We need to be doing all of it. So, when we do permanent supportive housing, people say that's not fast enough. We need emergency interventions. Then when we propose emergency interventions, some people push back and litigate against those saying, oh no, we need long-term housing. We need both. And that's the part the city can do, particularly with the money that the governor is going to be providing in his proposed budget. But at the same time, we need to be addressing the systemic causes of homelessness, most of which are not things in the city's control. Housing supply is, mental health isn't, substance abuse isn't, kids aging out of the foster care system are not, lack of support for people when they get out of prisons is not, economic inequality is not. Those are things beyond us, and they have to be addressed because over the past year and a half or so, the city and the county have been housing more people than ever, over 200 a day, but like 250 become homeless every day. And so we're dealing with a crisis and we're responding to it, but the crisis keeps getting worse and people keep becoming homeless. And so we need to do the solutions, but we also need to be addressing the root causes. And that takes the county, the state, the feds, and a lot of other coordination as well.
Councilman, we thank you so much. It's such a complicated issue, and perhaps it's not the intent, but it feels like everybody's just like passing the buck. Like I can't do it. It's the governor. It's the state level. It's this. It feels like it's just a lose-lose situation.
I don't know that it's a lose-lose situation. I do think that people are genuinely saying, well, they have a role in doing this and they have a role in doing this. My approach is, yeah, let's identify what others need to do, but let's do what we can do. And every council district needs to step up. Every community needs to step up. And while I get a lot of people saying, push them out to Palmdale or Lancaster or even Nevada, I represent the West Side. I'm only empowered to make solutions in the areas I represent. There's no ideal solutions on the West Side. There's no ideal location that is going to make everybody happy. I'm always willing to entertain a better solution, but I need to come up with solutions in the area I represent because the buck stops with all of us, including me and including my council district. And I think it's just really important that we try to do our part.
Well, thank you for showing up for us this morning, Councilman, to share your views. It's so important that we hear all sides and that we tackle this issue. It's a colossal failure in our city, and it's just heart-wrenching. So thank you very, very much. We'll be following this story closely.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.